My name is Soosan Lolavar and I'm a composer and sound artist. I did a Masters in Musicology at Oxford University, which was studying music but from the viewpoint of music as a culture or art form. And then I studied composition at Trinity Laban Conservatoire. There's been a few projects that I've worked on recently that have been a real favourite of mine. A particular one was last year. I was on a scheme called Adopt a Composer, where I worked with an amateur orchestra for a year, writing them a new piece of contemporary music. The aim of which was to encourage non-professional orchestras to play more contemporary music, because currently they tend to play sort of 19th century repertoire, and that's about it really. And that was really amazing because I got to know a really interesting group of musicians over a year, and also I could sort of see in them a developing interest of contemporary music, which is something that really interests me, sort of spreading contemporary music to people who might not otherwise interact with it. There wasn't really a particular moment that I decided to become a musician. Music had just always been a part of my life since I was quite young. I played the recorder and the oboe and played in orchestras and things like that. And I started composing when I was about 16 and really loved it, but it took me a very long time to sort of realise that it was something I could do. I think from where I wasn't in a musical family or anything. I thought to be a composer you had to be sort of an old male genius basically, and I couldn't really see any people like me who were composers. So it wasn't until I was sort of in my 20s that I discovered electronic music and experimental music and realised there were people making music that wasn't sort of symphonies or wasn't part of this classical canon, that I then realised that maybe there was a space for me to do that too. It's really hard to say what's my favourite genre of music because I like a lot of different music for sort of different times in my life. In terms of sort of generally Western classical music, I'm really interested in music which plays with the idea of texture and timbre. So particularly interested in electronic music, but also one of my favourite composers is Ligeti, and I like the way that he uses textures and timbres in his music and creates new sort of sound environments. Another favourite composer of mine is a woman called Kaija Sariaho, who I think is really fantastic composer, and it's also really great to have I think female composer role models. I think there's a real lack of them and they're really important to me. But then I like lots of other kinds of musics as well. I really like electronic music. I really like music which plays with repetition actually, and that's something I sort of seek out in my own personal listening as well. Technically I play the oboe, but I've been focusing more on composing lately. I haven't really performed for a while. But if I could choose any instrument, I would love to be a percussionist. I always think percussionists make the best composers, and I just think I think working with rhythm is a really exciting way of performing, and I think it looks so amazing to be able to play loads of different instruments really well. If I weren't a musician, and this would involve changing all of my skills completely, I would love to be an architect. And I think actually a lot of my music is interested in a lot of the same themes that run through architecture. So thinking about space, thinking about shapes, thinking about how things connect, and looking at sort of repetitive patterns. But I have absolutely no skills to be an architect whatsoever. But if I could have a dream career, then that would be it, I think.